So Kia's working today, and it's been kind of rainy. The Lexus is in getting tint done. So today what I'm going to do is, she said that there has been some smell coming off of the BMW. So I am under the impression that it's probably got a little bit of a seep around the valve cover. The valve cover gasket was just changed prior to being purchased. I had the dealership do that before I bought the car. So I'm under the impression that's probably got a little bit of a seep right there. I just changed the oil not too long ago. So I'm going to bring the car in, see if I can see where that leak might be, tighten down any loose valve cover bolts, and then drop about a quart of oil, put in this quart of Lucas stop leak. From what I understand, it works pretty well. It's not going to hurt anything. So even if there is a little bit of a leak around there, this might help with that even after I tighten it down. And again, it's not going to do any damage, so for $12 maybe it'll help out. I'll take a look at it and we'll see. We're going to get the BMW in here, open up that hood, check around a little bit, and then maybe end up jacking it up and dropping a quart of oil and putting this back together. So that's the plan today. Let's get to it. It's dark. It's dark in here. Okay, we'll get to looking down here in the engine compartment of this. It's a 328i. It's a 2009 BMW, and they're notorious for having valve cover gaskets and oil pan gaskets and oil filter housing leaks. And so I had those replaced by the dealership before I bought the car, and after a little inspection there is some oil sitting down here on the top of the engine mount. So for that to be down there, it needs to leak from somewhere above it, and I believe that I see a little bit. It's weird because you really don't see any on the head itself, but you do see it down lower, and there's not a lot of oil down on the plastic cover. So I'm going to have to assume that it's just a small seep. I probably won't even be able to tighten these up because they're these funky German star pointed bolt heads that I just don't have any, because I've got metric and I've got standard, and I don't have sockets for these German cars. I'm going to have to invest in some, but I can take that oil out and put that stop leak in, wipe everything down, clean it all up as best I can, and maybe that'll help with, because it's not a big oil leak, it's just seeping around that gasket in that one spot. So that's what I'm going to do today, and it's all, I mean, nothing's loose like a loose spruce goose moose. So I'm just going to make that happen for us today. Oh yeah, this should be fun. Okay. Alright, with this light on the phone, you can see that down there in that motor mount, right there is oil sitting down in there. So that oil has to be dripping from somewhere above it, which I'm assuming is right there. And then there's another one back there. So I'm gonna guess that that's where that little bit of oil seepage is coming from, but I'm not 100 on that. So we're gonna get that cleaned up, and I don't have sockets for those bolt heads, so I might not be doing anything with that right now, but I will drop this oil out and get that Lucas stop leak in. All right, let's get this jack underneath the proper jacking point, which is right there. Make sure that we are safe. So when I bought this car, I took it for a pre-inspection. The interesting thing about it, it was purchased brand new from the actual dealership in Corpus Christi. And then the owner, the first owner, the only owner before me, drove it and got rid of it. And then another dealership in town bought it at auction, which is kind of strange, but oh well. And so this dealership that bought it at an auction is they're like a big truck dealership, and they deal mostly with large, bigger rigs. So they had it in their inventory for like, I don't know, 6 months, she said. The woman said to me that they had it in their inventory for like 6 months, and it hadn't sold yet when I talked to her. So I said, okay, well, I'm interested in it. It's a good price. It's a one owner. It's under the mileage that I was looking for. And please take it to the dealership that it was purchased from and that it had been serviced at its entire life. And I want them to inspect it and see what's what. No problem. Took it to the dealership. And the dealership said, you know, we'll do this inspection for you and get back to you tomorrow. And so the next day, they send me an invoice, and it has, including labor, like $10,000 worth of work that needs to be done to it. It wasn't for sale for that much. And no BMW of this year is really worth that, unless it's got, you know, ridiculously low miles. So anyway, I take it, that invoice, that appraisal inspection, to the dealership that had it for sale, and they said, well, we can do all of this work. And I said, okay, well, these are the primary things that I want done. And they said, okay, it's not going to affect our price because these are safety issues: struts, valve cover gasket, oil pan gasket, fuel, oil filter gasket around that area. All of that was replaced. So now that I'm getting this little bit of a leak after driving it, I think we've had it since we probably put 20,000 miles on it or less. So, but they're BMWs, they're leaky. And I'm gonna get a jack stand up under here and crawl up under here and see if I can't find the drain plug and pull just a quart or so out. And then, you know, we'll get back to it. That's old man noise right there. Where? Plastic crap. More plastic crap. All right, I crawled under there. There's a little access panel in the plastic that plastic cover for the under the engine. There's a little access panel. You take that access panel out, and there is a 17 millimeter oil pan plug. I went ahead and did that. Pulled about what looked like about a quart, roughly, out, and it's time to get down off the jack, and then we will go ahead and put the Lucas oil treatment in. Start her up, make sure that there's no oil leaks, and that'll be the little maintenance for the day. Then I don't know what I'm going to do with myself the rest of the day. Ding! Safe on the ground again. Nice job. Oh, more old man noises. Ugh. Right, now that the car is safely back on the ground, I've had this Lucas engine oil stop leak sitting in some warm water to try to heat it up so that it'll pour a little bit thinner. Not thinner. Pour a little bit easier for me. And go ahead and get the oil filler cap off, put this quart in, and start her up, make sure that there's no oil leaks, and that's about all there is to that. It's not a difficult job at all. Yeah, you're going to make a little bit of a mess because you're not draining the whole thing, so you got to put that plug back in. So I maybe lost another cup of oil on the ground here in the garage. I've already got that cleaned up. So the interesting thing, I don't understand why they did that, but the interesting thing is there's no dipstick in these BMWs. They're simply electronic, and you have to run the car for a while and then press the buttons, go through the whole rigmarole of the menus to where it's going to check the oil electronically to let you know where you're at. So we'll have to do that in a little while. I sure miss old days where you just checked it by pulling out the dipstick. So that's why I drive older cars, I guess. So anyway, that's the plan. Lucas engine oil stop leak. It works, supposedly. So that's the next step right there. That's what we're gonna do. Little spout on the top of this jobby right here. Just like that. Stay. So there's a little spout on the top of this Lucas engine oil stop leak. It works. That needs to be cut to allow it to go in there. So that should be pretty simple to do for anybody with any skills. Make sure I don't hurt myself. I'll never hear the end of it. All right, that way. All right, and away we go. So yeah, it's pretty thick, but there is what I would normally do if I didn't want to keep this is just poke a hole in it, and that would help it drain a lot faster, like you would do with, you know, when you do your oil in the little containers. But I want to know how much I pulled out. So what I'll do is I'll take that oil that I drained and I'll fill this, and then whatever is left over after this is filled needs to go back in there. So does that make sense? Does that math work in your head? If you pull out an unknown volume and you replace that unknown volume with a known volume, and then you take that unknown volume, fill up a known volume container, anything excess of the unknown is more than what you put in with this product, and therefore needs to go back into the engine. Right? Do you follow that? Does that make sense to anybody at all? Anyway, you'll get it figured out. I don't want to be short on oil. The easiest thing to do would just go buy a bottle of the oil that I use, but this oil was changed not that long ago, so there's no reason I can't put that oil back into this engine. So that's what I'm going to do. And this stuff is thick. I don't know if you can see that, but that is, let me tighten that up a little bit. Thick stuff, kid. So I could have just took that top off. That would have made my life easier. But this is fun. It's fun to squeeze stuff, guys. Get my mug in there. So I'm just gonna keep doing this until this jar, it's a jar, it's actually not a jar, it's what would you call this? Put the description down below. It's not a jar per se, it's more of a bottle. Would you say a bottle? It's a bottle of thick oil. Oh, it's empty. So now I'll take that cap off and let the last little bit just drain out. What the French toast is going on? Alright, so I've got a 3-minute warning light going on here, guys. I've got about 3 minutes left of recording ability. So what I'd like to do is not drop my camera anymore. But what I'd like to do is maybe I can explain that math that I was talking about. I pulled out this much oil from the car. Okay, I don't know how much this is. I put this much oil back into it. So I need to put the remainder that I didn't replace with this back into the car. The best way to do that is to probably just try to pour it into this bottle. Once this bottle's full, anything I have left over is going to be going back into the car. Alright? Right. That makes sense to everybody? And I just eyeballed it. So, who knows? I think I pulled out a quart. It's gonna be pretty close. It's gonna be pretty close. I might not have anything left to put back in it. It's getting there. It's getting to the tip. It's getting up to the top. Boom, that's it. That is full. So that is what I have left over. And that is going to go back into the car real quick. And that is that math process. So now we know that we took a quart out, we replaced it with a quart of Lucas engine oil stop leak, and then whatever's left over has to go back in the car. So we're back to where we started to on oil level when we began, minus the cup that I dumped on the car. On the concrete. But so that's it. Alright, thanks. I don't know if you're gonna watch this. I don't know if it's interesting. I don't even know if I'll upload it, but I appreciate you if you do. Do me a solid and go ahead and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's not gonna make me any money, but it makes us feel better. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much, and come see us on the next one. Maybe the pretty girl will be on the next one.